Top Med Talk.
Well, hello and welcome back to the very first POCAPALOOZA. We've been traveling around the globe chatting with the rock stars in perioperative medicine. Now, this has been the Perioperative Care Festival. EBPOM might have ended, but we're carrying the torch. I'm Desiree Chappell, managing editor of Top Med Talk, and I'm the anchor for this event this evening and today. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, staying true to our 100% virtual event, and it is 11 p.m. here. Now, joining us tonight, where it's 4 a.m. British summertime, and obviously not celebrating the wrap-up of EBPOM yet, but still partying maybe just a little bit, and a man known around the world for his own contribution to perioperative medicine is our editor-in-chief of Top Med Talk, Monty Mythen. Monty, are you there? Oh. Uh-oh, Monty, you're muted. It's 4 a.m.
I'm just trying to see if I can get them to, I think you can hear that. I'm trying to see if I can get them to turn the music down a little bit because there's quite a party going on out here in the lobby. So just give me one more second. I'll just see if I'm not sure I can get it to go away, but I'm going to mute for a second and turn it down.
Okay. So obviously he's maybe been partying a little bit, but not too much.
I think that's better. Sorry.
Man, 4 a.m. looks pretty good on you, Monty.
We have a makeup team here, and the lighting got our expert, which is really, really good. I've been enjoying the music, but I haven't been partying. If you see what I mean. So that's getting
big difference.
Like a bit tachycardic from caffeine at this stage, but it's been. I feel well done us. Well done us. Yeah,
it's been a very successful show. Congratulations to you, Monty, and the team, because it was a huge feat putting together a 100% virtual conference in the matter of 2 months?
Yeah, I mean we've been planning in anticipation for 8 years, but we didn't think it would happen because of COVID. We thought it would happen because of carbon guilt and reality about the whole travel gig. But it's the team have just been amazing. The technical expertise, the enthusiasm, the volunteers, everyone around the world who's given their time, their materials. Wow! Did you watch the yoga?
Yes,
you watched the yoga yet?
Not my favorite part, but it's been one of my favorite parts.
It's been very, very popular.
Very popular.
Yeah. So and house bands and. Jeremy Sassoon was awesome. I think Jeremy's playing again after this, I think, as a replay as we do the whole POCAPALOOZA. I'm sorry, I can still hear the music in the background. It's hard not to party along at this stage.
I know, it's not. It is. Well, Monty, for those who may be just joining us, tell us just really quickly a little bit more about POCAPALOOZA.
So POCAPALOOZA, the word palooza will be more familiar to people in the USA, but now I hope the palooza term is familiar to our whole global perioperative medicine family. Yeah. It's an extravagant event, so we wanted to come up with this sort of summary term for when we would try and do these global gatherings, ideally free, open access, a combination of exchange of intellectual ideas, but also fun and updates from around the world from our colleagues. We call it a palooza. But go for a POC, a perioperative care palooza, POCAPALOOZA.
POCAPALOOZA, that's right. And Monty, we started in Cape Town with Bruce Picard, Paul Miles, and Salome Mashwimi. Beautiful conversation with them. We then were in London with you guys, went to Chicago with Saul, myself, and a couple others, which was fun. Chicago, yeah. Okay, Durham. But still, we went to the West Coast with Carol Peden and Lee Fleischer. Amazing conversation with them. And then we were down under with Ross Carriage and friends, the ANZAC group there. Long conversation, but oh my gosh, that one's going to go down in history for a long time. It was fantastic about what's happening in their neck of the woods. Now, Monty, we're wrapping it up. Well, not wrapping it up. We have one more stop, but second to last stop, rounding third. Baseball term for all you guys out there. Rounding third, and we are in Hong Kong for our second to last stop. So we have Mike Irwin, friend of the Top Med Talk, the EBPOM family. Mike, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And thanks for having me on board.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Far East.
or as we call it, the Near East.
True. So, Mike, I know your lovely background, beautiful picture there of Hong Kong, but it's not night, right? What time is it there for you guys?
It actually is, it's 11 a.m. Was it 11 a.m.? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's tricky when you've been staying up all night watching.
And I hope we have all those times right, actually.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I partied a bit too hard here myself, I think.
It happens. I know you were so excited.
I'll be at 11 a.m. Yeah, I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah, it's actually, and on
Friday.
Friday.
I didn't even get the time right. Yeah, that's right. You had me going there.
Good.
So Mike, are we? Sorry, Desiree. I just want to orientate ourselves. Are we looking at the island then, or at Kowloon?
You're actually looking at the island. You're looking from Kowloon towards Hong Kong Island. And in fact, those of you who went to the World Congress would recognise that fairly well. Towards my, I suppose, the right-hand side of your picture. Is where the convention centre is. Convention
centre, and your university's in there somewhere, isn't it? Is that right?
It's actually it's around the west side of the island, to the west side. It's not far, about 15, 20 minutes public transport, quite close.
And just to remind us, because incredibly densely populated, but you have been doing really well from the COVID-19 perspective.
Yeah, we've. I mean, obviously, we had we talked about this before. I think we had the experience of SARS. I feel that's obviously had some bearing, and probably the ability to close the border down fairly quickly and easily. It's obviously it is very densely populated, but it's a relatively small place, and the border access is very easily controlled. So I think the fact that people took this very seriously from our previous experience, and that we were able to sort of manage immigration issues and so on quite well, it's obviously been in our favour, because we've only had about 1,000 cases, population of 7 million. We've had 5 deaths, and we've had no locally transmitted cases for about more than 2 weeks. We've had a few people coming back from other countries. In fact, that's been our main source, actually. With other countries introducing quarantine, etc. A lot of kids who are studying university and so on in the UK, USA have all kind of come back home, and they have to go through quarantine, and many of them have actually turned out to be infected. In fact, even a colleague of mine, his daughter's studying dentistry in Bristol, she was positive whenever she came back. Oh. But fortunately, she was staying in a hotel, and fortunately, she was also quite well. So, been good.
Sobering stuff. Sorry, Desiree, interrupted the party. Just want to get that one out of the way. No, let's get back to smiley stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought it up, Monty. One final. I hope all of us learn from your all's experience that you have gone through it before. There's lots of things that we can do to intervene early. So, good points there.
I think early intervention, and also I really think that the people taking it seriously is a big thing. I mean, they really take it very seriously. They knew what could happen from what we saw before. So, all the sort of measures that were recommended by the infectious diseases experts and so on were kind of mandated and done right from the start.
Mask wearing.
You'd be a pariah here if you couldn't set foot in a shop without wearing a mask. They basically wouldn't let you in. You couldn't go on public transport without a mask. And that's been like that since February, basically.
But I mean, people are having fun here, but part of the virtual world is there are very, very few people physically actually here. They're all wearing masks, and they're transmitting the fun out to people who are enjoying it in their own home, amongst their own bubble, in their own institution. So you can still have fun and do the right thing.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Well, Mike, for our viewers tonight who may not know your background, because obviously your accent is not that of a native.
It's not that Hong Kong strong.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Irish. I was born in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I went to university in Scotland, in Glasgow, when I was 17. and then stayed in Scotland to the age of 29, and then decided I wanted to go overseas somewhere for a year, do a bit of research, see the world. And I ended up in Hong Kong for a year, and that was 1992, so 28 years later. Still there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been very, it's funny how life turns out. I think, it's kind of even a decision to go somewhere. A lot of my colleagues did that. A lot of my friends did that around the same time. Some of them stayed in places like Australia, Canada, US as well. And just that's the way it worked out for me. So It's been pretty good overall.
And tell us a little bit about your university.
So our university is the University of Hong Kong, which is the oldest university in Hong Kong. The medical school is about 120 years old. We have around 300 medical students, graduates a year here. Again, it's pretty... I think we were actually ranked something like the first or second university in Asia, and something like in the top 20 or 25 in the world, apparently. Wow. So doing quite well overall. Medical school is probably one of the biggest faculties, and probably maybe one of the most prestigious ones. I would say that, obviously, working in a medical school. But I think in terms of research and profile, is probably the highest one within the university itself.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the World Congress, and for those of us who may not have heard about that, just tell us a little bit more about that.
So the World Congress is basically a congress which is organised by the various global societies of anesthesiology throughout the world, and it rotates to different countries every 4 years, and countries are invited, societies are invited to bid to host it. I mean, so we used bid and host quite far in advance. I think we bid for ours in 2008 and then held it in 2016. So it's quite a big congress. It has to be, I would say it's probably not very focused, because it has to represent all different aspects of the specialty, anesthesiology, intensive care, pain medicine, and so on and so forth. So it's maybe not the type of congress people specifically want to go to learn a lot about one specific area. There are obviously other congresses may be better for that. But it's certainly quite popular. We had around 6,500 delegates to ours, which is pretty good. The one before in Buenos Aires had about 10,000 in South America. So then, of course, the one this was supposed to be held in September in Czech Republic has been postponed for a year, so I don't know what their numbers were looking like, but I would imagine it'd be quite popular as well.
Yeah, over there in the World Congress of Anesthesia.
Yeah.
Anesthesiology, right?
Anesthesiology.
Yeah.
It's all one big family.
It is.
Yeah. So, Hong Kong was a popular destination. I think a lot of people know Hong Kong quite well. It's a fun place. There's a lot to see here and so on. So I think people seem to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful gathering.
There's a lot of stress organising it. That's everything else. It was a nightmare. In fact, I'll tell you about maybe 2 months before we actually held it. The PCO, the conference organizer we're working with, told me we may actually lose money on it, because people leaving it to the last minute for registration, etc. In the end, we did really very well. We made a lot of money actually for the WFSA, but it was kind of a few sleepless nights for a month or two before it, I would say. Yeah.
Well, it was one. I was lucky enough to be there. It was it was wonderful gathering of people, and the faculty pretty much all support themselves to be there, don't they, Mike? That's part of the philosophy.
Yeah, it's a big commitment from people. I mean, we try to do certain things like help with accommodation, obviously registration. I think these are important. I think you have to do something for people who make the effort to prepare good quality presentations, workshops, etc. We just didn't have the budget for travel, but we were able to help with accommodation and give them free registration. I think that's fair enough.
I hosted, as I remember, I hosted a dinner at the British Consulate. So the British Consulate, along with one of our industry partners, Deltex Medical, were very kind to us. It was quite nice, the British Consulate. Is that fair?
Yes, I went along to that. Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's a nice building, quite a modern building actually. Yeah, up in the behind the mid-levels.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I hope something happens next year, and they can make it work. And even if it
yes, I hope so.
Yeah, we have a
should be okay.
But you're still
a lot of the congresses have been a lot of the congresses have been either cancelled or put back. I think the trend is to try and put them back, because certainly for we had one last year which had to be cancelled as well actually, and the conference venue have had a lot of problems with cancellations, so they've been quite flexible about rebookings and that type of thing. So I think it's obviously a world trend. It's not just a local issue.
But Mike, as part of the EBPOM family, you've run some evidence-based perioperative medicine meetings before. I think you've got one planned for this November, which we hope will go ahead. Even if it can't go ahead globally, it'll be a hybrid meeting at very least. So hopefully.
Yes, we're really looking forward to that, and appreciate your support for that as well, because that's very important. We've run a couple of relatively small symposia, maybe 200-300 people. I organise those just through my department in the university, but obviously try to include as many different specialists and as many different hospitals as possible, rather than just my own centre. I think that's, obviously one thing we could discuss, but in order to promote this concept, you can't really do it alone. You have to do it with all your clinical partners and other hospitals and so on. In fact, we've been working recently with the college to try to get some support from the college to do this as a more kind of college-based initiative rather than, university department type thing. We don't want it to be seen as being a kind of, I don't know what the word, but ivory tower or, academic issue. It's really not. There are huge benefits for patients. Okay here for me. So I think it's very important to have the multidisciplinary issue, because if we want to do it properly, we need to make people feel they're part of it and see the potential benefits for everyone, and not just get the impression it's some sort of academic venture.
The International Board of Perioperative Medicine, which is a group of individuals who we've been anchoring this POCAPALOOZA off, of which you're part of that original founding team, have got together just sort of to describe a curriculum. They're not a membership society. There's no sort of grandiosement that goes with it. It's really a way of collectively describing the mission and a curriculum. And it sounds like it's going pretty well in Hong Kong, perioperative medicine. Yeah,
that's great. I think we've been a bit slow and probably a little bit conservative initially about adopting many of the initiatives, but in the recent few years, I think especially when we started, we ran the two symposia, we really started generating a lot of interest. Particularly, I think what I found was there were quite a few people who were doing little things on their own, and they weren't really aware of what others were doing, etc. And when we sort of get everybody together, there was kind of excitement, there's a lot of things we can do here. Let's try this, try that, and so on. So since then, it's really taken off. Actually, really quite pleased with it. Some better than others. Some, like orthopedics, for example, have been very keen on this, really taken to it. Partly because we had Henrik Kellett actually over once a few years ago, and Henrik made a massive impression, as did yourself when you were over actually. But he had for some reason he had an incredible impression on the orthopedic surgeons. Yeah. So they, particularly the use of steroids, which I guess is a little bit controversial, but they've really taken to that. So
that's Henrik.
Yeah. So it's been good. In fact, I just did a workshop with the spine surgeons in our hospital. They organised a program to teach enhanced recovery for adolescent patients having spine surgery, which they're using, just like you were talking about, recorded lectures and so on, and presentations to spread the word in China and Asia. And a colleague of mine gave a talk the other day in China, which was attended by 80,000 online participants on advanced recovery.
Wow.
So
80,000.
80,000.
And we thought we were doing well with whatever we've got now, about 10,000.
Well, apparently that is not unusual, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, because the spine surgeon I work with, he told me he did one on scoliosis, and he had about 40 or 50,000, and it's obviously, you know, a smaller field than perioperative medicine. So huge potential.
Brilliant,
yeah, I mean,
brilliant.
a lot of interest and huge potential. I mean, I think, you know, in China is obviously have a lot of interest in this too. A little bit behind us, I would say. But certainly the will is there, and I think there's a lot we can do still.
Yeah, Mike, just tell us, what do you think are some of the other things that you guys can do to get this going? I know you said you're reaching out to colleagues at other universities and other facilities and things like that. What are some of the other things that you guys are talking about doing to spread the word? Okay, well, I think firstly, one of the important things is to audit what we're doing. I think that's one thing I think is quite clear. You really have to audit what you're doing. You have to audit the change and audit the impact of the change. I mean, it's not necessarily, you know, publishing in the New England Journal or whatever, but even publishing in our local medical journal to show that we can do things which can make a difference in our environment. There's always a little bit of skepticism. You know, people obviously can read the articles that are published in other journals and things from other countries. But there's always that little bit of skepticism whether we can do it here, whether our population's the same, you know, whether the environment's the same, the social circumstances, all these things. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We're trying to set up better quality audit to look at the changes that we implement and the impact that they're having in terms of patient outcomes. So, I mean, some of these things have obviously been shown before elsewhere, but we want to try and show it on a local basis as well. So that's one thing. Secondly is the multidisciplinary issue that we've kind of touched on already. This is not, I guess a lot of anesthesiologists or anesthetists, whatever you want to call them, have been involved in initiating this kind of work, particularly in the UK and in some other countries. So that's fine, but you really can't do it on your own. You have to do it with the other people that you work with. You know, that's not just the surgeons, but, you know, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, geriatricians, you know, other physicians that are interested, nurses, yeah, of course, and everything. So, you know, this is probably one of the most truly multidisciplinary, you know, changes that we can make in healthcare. And we have to get that message across. And we also have to get across, I guess it would vary from place to place, but here we don't want people to just think this is something for the teaching hospitals or whatever. This is something all the hospitals can do. It can be relatively simple. There may be a little bit of investment required initially because we work in a kind of socialized health system here, very similar to the National Health Service in the UK. So a lot of the funding comes from, you know, central government funding. So we need to be able to show them that what we're doing is making a difference in order to get the support, financial and otherwise, to push this forward. And we've been quite successful in that, actually. It's been, I mean, I think in anesthesia itself, we've experienced this kind of thing before with things like pain medicine. I think initially, you know, there was a lot of difficulty. My predecessors had a lot of difficulty to set up acute pain services. You know, had to make a lot of special extra effort themselves, didn't get funded for it, you know, weren't getting the time to do, you know, patient follow-up, etc. But they pushed and they persisted, and now this is, you know, very much standard care, and, you know, it would be unacceptable not to have it. And I think this is what's going to happen with these perioperative medical initiatives as well. In fact, it's starting to happen. Yeah. Mike, it sounds a lot like you guys have been focusing on like the enhanced recovery piece and really trying to get that piece in there. Are you doing a lot of other initiatives such as like, pre-op optimization, and, we talk a lot about the, diabetes, brain health. We just talked to Carol and Lee Fleischer about that. Do you feel like you're kind of getting into that spot yet? I know a lot of people kind of start with ERAS because it's a nice little bucket.
Yeah. Well, we have, we are moving towards where probably in our main teaching hospital, probably around 50 to 70% of patients are now seen in preoperative clinics where we can initiate protocolized care for common illnesses like, diabetes is a good example, and how to manage these. So we've set that up. We've just started a computerized system where when we see the patients, it's a full computerized system which actually can extract patients' health data from their. Everybody in the public hospital will have a computerized record of things like their renal function tests, et cetera. It can pull all that in along with the data that we put in and can do things like POCAPALOOZA scores and so on automatically for the patients. So we can do risk stratification for them in the clinic and discuss issues like that with the patient. We can discuss with the surgeon, alternative surgical options, or if we feel it may not be appropriate to do certain things and so on. So that's really developing quite well also.
Great. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for our second to final stop in the POCAPALOOZA. Monty, do you have any final thoughts for Mike, or any final questions?
Just thanks for all the support, your contributions. Really good luck with the meeting coming up later in the year. I hope we can start helping to advertise that soon. As I say, I'm kind of guessing that for all of our meetings for a while they'll be hybrid. That we'll be doing, there'll be a physical meeting, but we'll also be doing quite a lot online as well. Looking forward to supporting that as much as we can to help that get going. And hopefully we'll get together soon. Hopefully, you're long overdue your Dingle trip.
Yes, exactly. I'm desperate. I'm desperate to go there. Really. I've heard a lot of good things about that. So, anyway, I'll just say thanks very much indeed for your support to us on this, because it's been very important. I think there is this degree of uncertainty about whether we hope we can do it, properly face to face, but we have to go with the possibility that we can't. And the discussions we've had about virtual meeting have been very helpful for us, actually. And in the worst case scenario, we should have some kind of hybrid meeting, because of things are very stable here, with the illness, of course. So things are pretty much back to normal. Yeah. It shouldn't be a problem for us to hold a meeting. Just maybe a bit difficult with bringing people in from overseas.
So I don't think that you want a lot of people from the U.S. or UK.
Unless you want to spend 2 weeks here in a 5-star hotel or something before the meeting. No. But then,
if someone's got my 5-star hotel, I'm going to book my flight tomorrow. Tonight.
Indeed. Whatever day it is. There's a new travel quarantine site that's been opened up. Where do you want to quarantine next? Not a terrible idea.
No, it's not.
No, exactly, yeah.
Well, we hope we're going to be doing, maybe we can do a POCAPALOOZA during the EBPOM Hong Kong. That would be super fun.
Yeah, great, yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Well, Monty, one last thing before we go. I wanted to talk about everything that we've been doing for these last, since 8 a.m., wherever we were, in the UK, on the second.
Cape Town.
In Cape Town. We have been, there's a very important mission that we have been supporting. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, APORG, which is the African Perioperative Research Group. You'll find the connections. We've got a tent that's up there in our virtual expo. And there's some videos in there explaining what Bruce Bickard and his colleagues in Pan-Africa have been doing to try and improve surgical outcomes. And if you're talking about collaborations under sometimes very challenging circumstances, shame on the rest of us. They've really done some absolutely stellar work. And, we said we would do a little bit of fundraising as part of our endeavor here. So under the guise of Protea Live, which is a Just Giving page. A longer story as to how Professor Grocott managed to torture perioperative research Africa into protea, which is a uniquely African plant. But the Just Giving page is going really, really well. It's just a sort of one-off for each POCAPALOOZA event. We transfer the money over to the African Perioperative Research Group to help them support their infrastructure, fellowships, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So thanks very much for everyone for giving so generously.
Yeah, I always say, open your hearts, open your wallets, and help out Bruce and his colleagues there in Africa, because that is very meaningful. And you can, again, like Monty said, there's a tent in the expo that you can check out, the APORG tent. You can find some more information in our POCAPALOOZA tent as well. So thanks to everyone who's donated and who is, I know, about ready to donate. And and thank you for watching our first ever POCAPALOOZA. It's been a fantastic event. We'll wrap things up in another 4 hours with Bruce again and Paul and Salome in Cape Town, just 4 hours away. So set your clocks if you're going to take a little nap. Set your alarms to wake back up. And we'll see you guys soon. Mike, thank you so much. It was great hearing from you.
Well, thanks, Sarah. It was good to be part of it.
Yeah, and good luck with everything that you're doing. And we hope to catch up. We hope to catch up with you in the fall.
Great. Thanks again. All the best.
Cheers.
Great
All
to see
right.
you.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Top Bed Talk